Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the HGC Southeast Asia Eastern Clash Qualifier number 2. I am Babel. Joining me is Jay Howe. And how are you feeling, man?
Feeling good after that first game. Mikkelsen, we didn't get to see them yesterday. Impressed me in the early parts. So happy to see some new talent here in the qualifiers.
Yep, always good to have new talents around in the scene. It just, brings about a new life, to this competitive atmosphere, of course. And speaking about new life, Resurgence has got a new lineup. Apparently falling short a little bit yesterday, very early on in the lower brackets, I think. First round, they did manage to win against Kun Pei-yun, which is why they're here playing off against Fighting Doges.
Doges. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is with Resurgence, we really wanted to see what we would get out of them. We haven't seen them live on stream. Obviously, they had to qualify to get here, but we didn't know what to expect from them after, again, we saw the mix-up in rosters back in February. They qualified for the first Eastern Clash. So if you're recognizing that name, it's because they were there just a handful of months ago. They fell short in April, not qualifying for the midseason brawl, trying to find their way with this new roster, trying to feel it out a little bit. There's a lot of promise with this roster, too. And, we saw some good things from them. They have a lot of, experience on that team. So it's something that we want to see against coming up in this series. They're the expected favorites, but again, with the newer roster, there's always question marks when that happens.
Exactly, and that is why this is a very exciting matchup. And just to round out the roster here for you guys, Resurgence is actually playing with Maltese and Pizza Crazy. Pizza Crazy.
Meltis yesterday was on Heroes, and he's like, look, I'm trusting my team to keep me alive. I'm trusting my team to go on. But Meltis was like super aggro yesterday. I love the aggression. It's something that I think might have been a little bit, hard at times for them to work around. But if you can start to revolve around a hero or a player that's that aggressive and give them the heroes to shine on, then it can really allow your team to take that next step. So Meltis is definitely somebody that I enjoyed watching yesterday. He was punished a little bit at times, but when you see a player that's that confident, you got to feel pretty good about, when you're that confident, mentality-wise, you're always going to work to be better. You don't want to go out there, be that confident, and be bad, because that's embarrassing. So you find ways to get better, right? So that's something that I like to see. His position yesterday was a little bit aggressive, but I'd like to see more of that, and his team kind of work around it.
Of course, you need good support when you do stuff like that. And speaking of our favorite player, on the side of Fighting Doges, we do have Trangya. He is a very known player in the local Hero League scene. He plays a lot of Lee Meng. He plays a lot of Chromie. We did see his Chromie yesterday. Unfortunately, not being up to standard compared to a solid draft like an Oriel Vala. That is the main reason why I think they lost out yesterday.
That was the game where he had like 140,000 damage.
Oh, no, that was
that was the other one. That was the other one. That was Resurgence.
That was
sorry. Back way.
Chromie.
The other way. Zappy over there.
Yeah. But still, Tranglia, this team, full Vietnamese team. I really respect that because the fact that this region is currently unlocked, where you can play across country with players from different countries, basically forming the same team. Having a full Vietnamese team speaks volume about the commitment there. It helps them with the communication as well. And also, we did see some really good stitches from Kuga. Very on-point hooks, as well as really, really surprising positioning for them to take on, even against Daily Keatons yesterday. They landed a lot of hooks against Mer on that Rhaegar in BOE. So just reliving some of those key moments from yesterday. And without further ado, let's just talk a little bit more about this matchup here. Resurgence versus Fighting Doges. Obviously, the favorite's going to be Resurgence, but what is your personal take here?
I expect Resurgence to do well, as I think we are ready for the draft. But again, I want to see Resurgence kind of take that next step with this roster, and that's something we're going to find out here in just a moment. But with Resurgence, I look at them as the favorite. I look at I've been here multiple times now. I see these names, and I see a lot of really good talent out of these. I talk about individual talent a lot, but we saw moments yesterday where every individual player had shown, and we need them to do it together consistently, and that's the thing that I expect to see here in Infernal Shrines. You talk about one of the most even battlegrounds you can possibly get. Both teams have a fair shot at the objective, but the better team will find ways to win out either through the macro or for team fighting. We're going to see what both these teams bring to the table.
All right, so some background information first. Infernal Shrines is being picked up by Fighting Doges, and this used to be Resurgence's favorite battleground. And you see the instant Oriel first ban without even thinking about it. It seems like they heard our call yesterday.
And that's the thing is with Ariel right now, she's in such a really good spot. In this battleground in particular, you can hit that. You can generate hope for yourself pretty easily. There's always going to be something there around the objective. You have the detainment strikes. You can get those stuns, good follow-ups there. And also complements really well with heroes that do well on this battleground. So just take that away, play something a little bit more even as we see Genji being hovered here by the Fighting Doges.
I like the fact that Genji is part of the consideration, but you have to also think about the fact that without the Oriole, you may want to place a little bit of emphasis on other supports such as Uther being banned out. That is also the other consideration, or maybe even a Stitches ban, which we have seen so often in this tournament. But nope, they're sticking with the Genji ban. This means that Uther is still a very viable pick here for Resurgence as a first pick, but without the Genji-Uther synergy in this map, you have to be very careful when you pick a solo support Uther. They will go to Stitches instead.
They were going to go Stitches. Another hero that I'd like to see highly prioritized in this battleground is going to be a Tassadar. If we see a Tassadar Vala here, I'd be very happy with that. You know, you've got Vala who, depending on whether there's going to be the right follow-up, you can vault away. You need that mobility. Tassadar also fits that role because he can dimensional shift away. But you also have that natural synergy and two heroes that do really well on this objective. So objectively, if you're trying to play a little bit, the only scary thing is giving up that Stitches to the Uther, and if you can coordinate the hook into an Uther stun, you have that primary target. So we're going to see exactly what Fighting Doges feels comfortable with here on the first for their first two picks.
I think that Vala Tassadar is a pretty good option. The other option you can actually also consider is the Haka Greymane, which basically just gives you a lot of global, a lot of consistent damage in the Greymane. We've seen Fighting Doges play the Greymane before, so I'm looking forward to see the decision here. But against the Stitches, I don't think that either of this combo would do bad. Okay, so it's a bit of both. They want to have the Uther and Greymane.
I like that pickup a lot. I mean, if you want to go Cursed Bullet, does really well against Stitches, highest health pool in the game. If you want to, we saw it yesterday where there was a Stitches comp, but there was a really squishy and vulnerable backline. And instead of going into that Cursed Bullet to prioritize the Stitches, we saw go for the throat, and they just ignored the Stitches on the front line, dove past that, and found ways to get advantage of that other one. So while Cursed Bullet is appealing, I like the fact that there was the recognition to understand where their kill potential lies, is to ignore the Stitches, dive past and get that, and getting that Uther to help secure that dive on that backline for Greymane, very nice pickup.
Of course, that's a little bit of the old school style of playing. Nowadays, it's not so simple with double supports in the meta, but still very exciting to see plays like that, high risk, high reward. And on the side of Resurgence, though, two more picks for them. Traditionally, I want to pick up the support right about now, as well as a range damage dealer, which I am thinking if they're contemplating the false stat, they may want to pull that off a little bit later. But nope, they'll stick through with the Vala. Nothing too surprising here. And an Arthas. So two very tanky warriors in the front line. Both have the ability to self-sustain quite well. Arthas Stitches up against a Greymane. This is going to be exciting. Maybe you actually really have to go for the throat here.
It's a tricky thing, too, when you go into an Arthas, when you potentially could be going into a Malfurion against something like an Uther who has that level 7 talent that if you're stunned, rooted, things like that, then all of a sudden you get that added armor value at level 7. So you got to be a little bit careful on where you're trying to time that, where you're trying to pick that. Arthas obviously has that consistent slow, things like that. But if you can get the lockdown, then you get the right follow-up. So if it's going to be Reign of Vengeance, I would not be surprised at all to follow up on all that. You just got to make sure you've got the prime target, the right timing, and the right blow-up.
All right, Tassadar ban. Jayhao, that is something very interesting. I think it's a good ban because you don't want to let it go through the second phase, and if they don't want to pick out themselves, they should be looking to ban it. But the question here remains the fact that they still have that Tyrael option for the Greymane support if they want to have that for Fighting Doges, which is why I think Resurgence should be looking to take out that Tyrael. But nope, it's another Angel instead, and it's Malthael.
I really like the Tyrael pick that you're talking about. It gives you so much. You have the mobility in case you get hooked. You also have the mobility to engage in case your teammate gets hooked, and you can provide that added protection, give them an escape, and also disrupt a lot of things around the shrine late game, especially with the Holy Ground. So that would be a good option here. We're not sure if Fighting Doges is going to be comfortable with that. But of course there are a couple of other good options. But the fact that you've got Stitches Arthas on one side, Fighting Doges now got to start looking, are they comfortable on a Nubarak with the current iteration, with the nerfs recently to Nubarak? And right now we haven't seen the success that we had seen previously in that dominant form. Right.
And Malthael getting banned out here. Two more picks for Fighting Doges, like you mentioned. Nubarak is a pretty viable one against a huge target like Stitches, considering the fact that it's only a Vala there that can effectively help to clear out the Cocoon. There we have the Nubarak. So the other option here is to consider, do they want to go for a secondary support at his face, when Resurgence hasn't picked one, or they want to stick with a T-Real pick to support the Grey main. Very divey comp, but nope, they want to go for something a little bit more closer to home, backline damage dealer. Kel'Thas is going to be able to spread the fire against 2 melee, so that still works out well.
I'm really hoping we see Mana Addict, but level 7 going into that burn flash, you get that percent base damage if you hit 2 members with your Flame Strike, and hitting an Arthas and a Stitches with that can add tremendous value when you get those around the shrine, because they're going to be in the same general vicinity most of the time in a small choke point area. So we'll see if Kel'Thas post level 7 can really start to work away at these 2 heroes. But I like the Kel'Thas on this battleground. In particular, you have your backline damage of Greymane Kel'Thas, just tremendous damage. Just Kel'Thas does like that one thing that if Stitches does get hooked in, or hooks him in, Kel'Thas does not have the mobility to get away.
I actually think that Anubarak is going to be pretty tanky this game. He's got inherently a very high amount of his spell armor, and with Uther giving him even more armor, it looks like he is in a pretty good spot. But it's going to be double support for Resurgence, and that's the Brightwing Rhaegar looking towards Emerald Wind here to force a disengage if possible. Rhaegar just to keep one of the HP refilled there with... I don't think it's going to be Bloodlust, so it should still be Ancestral. Also going to be expecting a lot of heavy burden on this Vala right here in this game. For
that
Resurgence.
Is a lot of heavy burden on the Vala. It's up to you to do a lot of the damage. Obviously, Arthas, you know, with his AoE abilities, Stitches with his slam build will contribute to that. You have the Lightning Shield as well, so you've got a little bit. But a lot of that, when it comes to team fighting, things like that, is going to be reliant on Vala. The Vala should be a little bit safer. Obviously, your dive buddy is going to be Greymane and Ubrak. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a Tyrael here, but... if you now get into the poke war, Vala, Kel'Thas isn't necessarily diving in. He's not necessarily landing that gravity lapse through the Skeletal Defender. So, you know, you have certain dive potential. It's just a matter of how much you want to go in. Fighting Doges, just a few seconds left to decide.
Do you think that Kel'Thas should be contemplating a Pyroblast?
No.
No?
Brightwing E, giving that 30 spell armor, is just way too strong, I think. I believe that was a Dahaka pickup. I was looking
Dahaka.
And I heard it. And that voice line is terrifying. But no, Pyroblast against that type of composition, it's just way too difficult to pull off. And if we see Lightning Shield, their shield at 13, getting that extra shielding, you know, you've got Brightwing, you've got the E that gives a 30 spell armor now. It's really hard to find those windows to fit that in. And if you can delay it out in time for that Pixie Dust to come back in, things like that, that you just don't see as much value out of it. I think 30 spell armor is just way too much to try and pull that off.
But you can cocoon the Brightwing.
That is true. You can cocoon the Brightwing, but...
well,
your only
right.
target is going to be Vala.
Yeah, that's the
or
point.
Rhaegar at that
you
point.
just take out the Vala or Rhaegar, and the team fight's more or less done, because they only have got 1 damage dealer on that side for Resurgence, and it's kind of like a little bit of an all-in build for me, which I find a little bit risky. But I know that, you know, double supports in the meta is just a little bit weird that they have an Arthas and Stitches and a severe lack of damage. Of course, if you talk about the Shrine fighting capability from both sides, it should be pretty even, because you got Kel'Thas on one end, you got that slam build from Stitches on the other. But regardless, if you really want to dive in, which they do have a dive comp, they have the Greymane, they have the Anubarak, they also have got the Dahaka, Burrow from the backside. You have a lot of possibility there. Even isolation could be a viable option here.
I think isolation definitely could be, especially if you're talking about going up against an Arthas whose survivability oftentimes relies around the Army of the Dead. So getting that, allowing him not to either cast it or not for him to heal off of it, you now have that burst potential. If he's on that front line, he doesn't have the escape. You know, obviously he might be able to get a little bit of movement speed from that Pixie Dust, but for what it's worth, you now become a priority target as we are headed into game number 1 with Resurgence versus Fighting Doges.
All right, on the blue team, Fighting Doges going to be here, full Vietnamese team. If you're from Vietnam or a fan of Vietnam, do root for them. Trung now going to be playing as the Kel'Thas, flexing those muscles there. Kuga will be the Anubarak, Richie onto the Greymane. Sorrow will be playing as the Uther, last but not least, Tom Harvard, Yodahaka.
And on the right side for Resurgence will be Capricorn on Brightwing, Meltus on Rhaegar, Yu Yang on Arthas, Zappy on Vala, Pizza Xiao, a.k.a. Pizza Crazy, going to be on Stitches.
All right, what's interesting here is that it looks like there's a bit of a roster swap, rather role swap for Resurgence. Malthus was playing DPS yesterday, but now he is on that Rhaegar, and Capricorn is going to be playing as the other support. That's the Brightwing right there.
I'll tell you what. Feeling confident as KT when you go Convection against the melee comp. You're going to see if you can get that big Q value. We talk about the clear, we talk about the damage, especially post 7, and then post 13, we'll see how it goes as we see a hook lands. No follow-up. Your main follow-up will be either the root from Arthas or the polymorph from Brightwing on that. But with both of them split, you're just giving them that warning shot. Like, you keep standing there, you're going to see a lot more of these.
All right, Kuga in the bottom lane, setting up a possibility for a gang here. Lands the stun on the Capricorn follow-up, also very nicely done. Sorrow in position, but the damage from the Greymane just too far out. Doggy's a little distracted back there. Maybe a little bones right here and there.
Brightwing is just so different. The fact that she self-cast Pixie Dust in the middle of that, and you saw that follow-up, that damage, and her health bar barely moved. That's what I'm telling you. Like, new Brightwing is definitely viable.
Oh, Gili's going to be so happy about that. All right, Tom Havert, mid lane. Nope, Drak missed the shot. Sorry, top lane. And we have a full 4-man rotation up here. This is heavy investment on the side of Fighting Doges.
Yeah, they're neglecting the middle lane. They recognize they don't want to give up that experience, so they sent Greymane down. But Kel'Thas getting caught out a little bit. Gets the Gravity Lapse. Does get a questing stack towards his Flame Strike. So, I mean, some value there.
Okay, and back to the top lane it is. Trying to spawn mid lane, so you can expect a lot of rotation from both sides. But because of the fact that both teams have got that global, I'm expecting the Haka to sit a little bit longer in the top lane, and the same will be said for Brightwing in the bottom lane.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be there, but Kel'Thas, if we actually take a look, Kel'Thas is actually trying to get onto the Capricorn down there, misses the Flame Strike. No available option to get that Gravity Lapse, but it's good that they're rotating down here to clear this wave. They need to get 4. They don't want to try and take this fight at 4. They're going to get that between the bottom lane and middle, look for them to re-engage. They don't want to, they're giving up quite a bit of an early start here.
All right. Okay, Yu Yang already going in, pushing up for a little bit extra slow on the Kuga, but no follow-up from the rest of the team. And Tom Haven in the worst possible position ever, comes in from behind. Pizza looking for the hook, but not going to find it just yet. Meltis goes in for a bite, very risky position. Zappy still kind of low right now. Yu Yang also dropping a lot of HP, and then we have the Gravity Lapse connecting. Yu Yang sidestepped the Flame Strike, but Ricci comes in. Meltis, dog versus dog scenario, and the better dog is Rhaegar.
They went face to face. You could hear the roar as they went in. I was like, all right, they're going in hard there, but Rhaegar is just like a bull. He just like ran in. It's like when two immovable objects run into each other, one doggy will win.
All right, then we have a bit of a I bite you, you bite me situation. Very nicely said. Kuga. Hook did not connect onto the Unabarak, unfortunately, but still, this gives Resurgence a pretty comfortable start here. 30 scout count going in already against 9. They should be able to confidently get this one. You should see Brightwing rotate off this lane, or rather area, really soon.
You know, if I'm on the side of Fighting Doges, I'm actually feeling pretty good about this. Kel'Thas actually made pretty good progress on his Convection. Post level 7, he gets that percentage damage on his Flame Strike. Greymane, of course, will hit that questing talent on his cocktail at 7. So you look at the questing talents on what they provide the team, and then you look at Kel'Thas post 13. Is you actually have a lot of really good team fighting potential as this game goes on. So it's something that, you know, if you give up an early Punisher, that's fine. As you can see, he continues laying that stack. They just have to be careful of positioning as Anub'arak goes out. Look for Pizza Xiao. He's trying to come in with the hook. Instead, we are going to see Anub'arak fall early. The hook will miss.
That's a huge whiff right there, but still the kill onto the Anub'arak was successful because of Zappy's Vala going aggressively past the fort. Mind you, the fort still stands.
The fort still stands. They should be able to re-engage here the minute that minion wave pushes in. Zappy should walk up there, get the auto attacks in. And speaking of auto attacks, Vala opting to go Creed of the Hunter at level 4, not going into the multi-shot build.
Yeah, this is fully focused right-click build from Vala right now. Level 7. Also talent tier-wise. Still deciding though, but bottom lane we have the Brightwing already, and top lane Yu Yang is already there to try and soak a little bit of EXP. It will be the vault for Vala at level 7.
Well, both teams going to prioritize the camps. We do see a slight experience advantage, and it's something that Resurgence, if they continue to grab the soak, don't die, don't give up too much in the middle of that, they can start to play towards 10, start to get that. If they can get the stall tactic, they have the global of Brightwing. You can kind of manipulate that and get towards level 10. Try and get this to snowball out of control by obtaining that next Punisher. So it's up to Resurgence right now. Stay focused, stay in lanes, and continue to try and get that XP.
All right, so interesting to see a huge response from Fighting Doges. All 4 members again in the bottom lane, leaving the top lane empty for a little bit. They are already 1 level behind. Got to be very careful about a macro call here. Although they are severely pressured, you can see the cam in the bottom side getting picked up by Resurgence as well, and the rest of the team just rotating around.
This is so a couple of interesting talent choices. We are seeing Hand of Protection, Uther's version of Cleanse, not the Fury of the Ancient Kings, which is a little bit surprising given how much is able to proc that on the other side. But also, Vala just feeling completely dominant on that single attacks, going Death Dealer at level 7, trying to get that reset, that extra damage after the vault. So we'll see exactly how aggressive Zappy wants to be as he's continuing to hit that questing talent. Babel, he is 56 stacks out of 100 in so far.
All right, that's very fast. 6 minutes in, and we're looking at a second shrine spawning right about now. It will be a bottom shrine. Kuga already here. Dahaka can easily come down. Nice rotation from Capricorn to be on the top side of this map as the Brightwing. So Global's in the right position. I like this.
Fighting Doges, again, I talked about Resurgence, staying focused, staying in the lanes. They need to just back out. If you're fighting Doges, there's no way you're contesting this. Level 10 just picked up by Resurgence. Nicely done there. This is the moment that I talked about. If you can get this, you can spiral it out of control. Fighting Doges is going to have to find a way to cut their loss. They need to soak mid, soak top. The bottom fort is probably going to go down. So play, make sure, I got to say this, Kael'thas does not die. He is still not fully stacked. He's 14 out of 20. That is the one hero you cannot afford to lose in this.
Capricorn inside stab, polymorph onto the Dahaka, but he is kind of low right now. To be very careful. Dahaka still giving the chase right there, and bottom lane Punisher already spawning here. Resurgence wants to take the fort.
The fort should be a foregone conclusion. You got to give this up, defend behind the keep.
The flank from Yu Yang on the side. Here comes the Brightwing as well. The Emerald Wind getting stopped there by a nice time from Kuga. Could have been worse.
My favorite part about that was Pizza recognizing he needed to get that kill potential. He used his Putrid Bound, got that movement speed, got up into position just in case, but his team executed very well. They got the kill. That's a big win for them, but level 10 has been picked up. It's got to be Phoenix here. They are going Pyroblast. Phoenix right now would be such a huge zoning potential. Oh, it is. It is. I'm sorry. I misread the portrait from way over here. It looked like a big old red bulb.
Yeah, I was a little confused right there as well. But still, we have the Phoenix setting up the area. Punisher will go down. Off this, pulling back a little bit, and they should be using the Frozen Tempest right now. Howling Blast connects on 2. We see the big little web of Cocoon right there, and that is actually the Stitches. Nice Emerald to try and force the disengage. Pizza Sail does not have Butcher Ball for the next 5 seconds. Going to stop spreading the fire there. Yu Yang in the depths gets Ancestral directly onto him. Tom Harbour dropping very low, looking to get some Borrow Heal right there. He's going to get it, and Meltis still, and no one dies. But a hook on the Kuga though, and you still see Yu Yang directly in front of the Inubarak. Still no kills yet.
No kills yet. Both teams lucky to be alive. Kael'thas did finish his convection, so he can play a lot more aggressive without worrying about giving that up. If you do go down, obviously that's not what you want, but you can be a bit more aggressive, thinking you can go out there. We're going to see an invade on the camp here, but I don't know if this is a fight they're willing to take. They're going to stay in there. Curse Bullet was used. Kael'thas trying to get those Flame Strikes over, but I think he just helped clear the camp a little quicker.
Curse Bullet there. Very short cooldown, so that's fine. On the flip side though, Anubarak's Cocoon, Dahaka with adaptation, he still has got 35 seconds of that, so they should not be looking for a fight right now, but they are, regardless.
I like to pick up Emerald Wind over Blink Heal. You don't want to be Blink Healing into the Living Bomb of Kael'thas, so good pickup there. But level 13, you got to play the talent game. They've got Dahaka top. Right now, Fighting Doges needs to just try and play the experience game. They need to find their way to 13 before the next Shrine phase, which is actually going to be coming up real soon. So the fact that they're 4-man stacking, giving up that experience in the middle lane, they just need to play safe right now.
Oh, that's the Beetle. The Beetle's safe right there. I'm really hoping the Resurgence is able to set up some form of a gank right before the mid area where they have got 2 camps pushing for them, but unfortunately they decided to go down to the bottom lane instead. Shrine going to spawn mid lane. They're going to have a bit of a head start. Maybe they were looking for a pick on the Dahaka, J-How.
They're going to try and get that pick, and they're going to land that. Nicely done there. Nice pickup on that, and well-timed. And again, the fact that experience, you were relying on Dahaka to be your sole soak in terms of experience while also simultaneously soaking the bottom lane, but they gave up a little bit in the middle. And again, they continue to find themselves down a talent tier. And it's so hard to say, well, we got to give this up, but we've got to get experience. You've got to find ways to cut your losses to find yourself back in the game. We're now 2 of the last Shrine phases to where it looks like they're going to be doing okay, and then it's just like, well, we actually can't contest at all. And when it starts, when it's once, that's fine. When it's twice and there hasn't been that much happening, it's bad. But we've got a fight breaking out.
All right, Emerwin directly out from Capricorn, but the Cocoon already connecting onto the Stitches there. Butcher Ball going to come back up. Kuga getting slow. The hook connecting onto Anipurak by Yu Yang knows what he wants. And that is the Kael'thas still going in very deep. Sorrow getting blocked out. Zappy comes in with Rain of Vengeance, picks up A direct hit onto Kilthus by KT will finally be in a bad spot. 2 to 3 more hits. Zeppy, run, Zeppy. There we go. 2 hits left and 2 targets out. Tom Howard with adaptation still staying alive. Bakuga dropping solo. Meltis goes in to take a bite, but still no kill on the Underbreak yet. There we have it. And last but not least, Tom Howard going to be here. And it looks like it is a pretty happening 1 versus 1. But Punisher mid lane, that takes priority right now.
That the vault in by Vala she got 2 more auto attacks. It was pretty much a goner, but Death Dealer there so strong. Now we're going to see the mid keep falling with this Punisher after they picked up a handful of kills there. Let's get this, walk away, and continue to play that game. I mean, they've got a 2.5 level lead. Resurgence completely in control of this.
Just look at a bottom lane. This is just mind blowing. The Haka's trying to go back home. Capricorn's like, no way. I think it got cancelled like 3 times.
The jukes. Capricorn's like, that's fine. You do what you want. I'm just going to go over here and tap.
Okay. So close. All right, Pitsen top lane clearing out the camp, but still Resurgence with a 3-level lead and 1 talent here up. Fighting Doges, they got to fight a little harder.
They definitely need to. Again, they need to prioritize getting back in the game in terms of experience. They're 2 levels down, and they're 2 levels away from level 16, and yet they are 5-man stacking in the bottom lane. Unless you're going to get a pick, which right now they have been so elusive in that. They have 0 kills. So your potential to get back in the game is reliant on you getting that experience. And sometimes it's not a matter of... So there's certain things that you can do. For Resurgence, we see in certain areas it's good. If they push in that top lane, it dies to a fort wall. If you push in other lanes, you're giving the experience to the other. But there's the pick.
All right, Yu Yang still staying alive. The Cocoon onto the Hagar. He was looking for the Ancestral. He was looking for it, but he didn't use it. And now he's thankful that he didn't use it. That's so close.
The entire time, they've given up at least 2 waves of soak up at the top. They've now given up a fort with that camp, and they're continuing to try and look for their pick. They're just not getting it. Yu Yang is playing out of his mind, howling blast after howling blast to just keep the other team at bay. Every single time he continues to do this, and he is just adding that protection for his team, and he's just like, I dare you to come in. It's 3v5, and we are not scared of you.
All right, Tom Havert popping the adaptation. Nice slow there by Meltis. Is going to go in for a bite. There we go. Already could see the Borrow coming. Capricorn looking for the zoning Emerald win, but still not going to use it. Yeah, pulling back Grayman directly onto Capri. Capri's going to be fine, but bottom lane. Bottom side, sorry, you see Tom Hava dropping very low. Kuga trying to go back, but they are not able to stop.
Take a look at the top keep. Take a look at the top keep right now. They have pushed in this camp with 2 people and a shaman camp this entire time. And the entire time, Fighting Doges has been at the bottom. You know, we are going to see him get out of there. Zappy taking a lot of damage, but Emerald Wind is going to come in. They still have somebody in the Cocoon. The Rain of Vengeance in return. This might be a fight they can get away from. Putrid Bile has been used. And just like that, they have completely dominated the entire battleground. 2 in one lane, 3 in another. And the entire time, Fighting Doges can't fight it. They are turning the fight around. And down goes Greymane.
There we go, Sorrow. Not so close. Meltis swings by to say hi.
Unreal.
Oh, he wishes he's got Bloodlush right now, though.
Unreal. Just unreal that this is the way that Resurgence is winning the game. They are just dominating right now.
Very good macro calls from the team. Capricorn now going to get stunned. Nice side step right there. Some little slow coming from Meltis, but still Pizza with another slow of his own. A slam going in. Zappy focusing fire on the Kel'Thas. Sorrow taking a bit of a beating, but still everyone's sitting on the core. Yu Yang right now knocking directly on the doors to the victory of the first game. Zappy gets a free heal, and game 1 goes to Resurgence. 4-level lead, J-How.
Who do you highlight as the all-star for Resurgence? Because right there, Zappy just dominated that on Vala. Just every single team fight did whatever he wanted and did it really well. He went a build that was focused on single target damage. He found a hero, he would go. His priority targeting, there's certain small moments that we saw there is that the minute something happened, the team made a call and their team worked towards that single target damage. The changing of calls in the middle of fights, when it was appropriate, Resurgence was on point in a lot of those team fights, and a lot of it was Zappy getting that call, getting value out of that Death Dealer at level 7. But again, every single time there was a moment where it looked like Fighting Doges was going to do well, Yu Yang's like, nope. Yeah. No, thank you. He played Arthas so well. They had such great control. The Stitches hooks, everything about what Resurgence just did was just amazing to watch. They had 0 deaths, okay? But at the same time, Fighting Doges had a few opportunities. They gave up the last 2 shrines, and they decided, you know what? Ignore the objective. We're going to team fight. They tried to team fight, I think, for the last 3 minutes there. They gave up an entire push. I watched that camp get picked up at the top. of the shaman camp, walk all the way on, and the entire time I'm watching the minimap while everything's going on the bottom.
Yes.
I'm watching the minimap, and I'm watching, all right, it's pushing. There's 1 lane of soak, 2 lane of soak, and it's continuing to go. We're talking about 30-second intervals to where that's how long you're fighting. You're giving up that many intervals, and they continue to push. And all of a sudden, I'm like, that fort's down. And I'm watching the minimap, and they're still pushing. We're talking about the fight down there. They're still pushing. That keep is going down. I mean, that is how long that fight went on. And they got nothing out of it. And their opportunities of engagement are so slim, and the disengagement opportunities by Resurgence are just so many that it just, the fact that they're just like, we're committed to this, and I'll be damned, I'm going in whether we get it or not, and they did not get it. They ended up losing the game because of it.
I have to say that that whole play, it's a very good observation you made, but that whole play was made possible because of really small things like Howling Blast connecting on targets in the back line. You know, he wasn't really aiming at the Dahaka. He was aiming at a follow-up after Dahaka lands a drag. Supposedly, he lands a drag. So that is the KT. Nice placement there. But also stuff like Capricorn coming in here to save Yu Yang. I think that was the call right there.
I mean, it looked like they finally got the pick on Arthas.
Yes.
But Arthas had Icebound Fortitude. He's got that armor, and then he came in. Capricorn came in on Brightwing. He just walks away. And that's when it all started. Right there.
Right there. 3 versus 5. And they held on so long. The fort, I think, was still standing at the end of that fight.
Everything.
It wasn't a push. It was a team fight. It was like Tom Hubbard's like going directly in to the back line trying to get a pick right there. But the fort still stood while top lane got absolutely destroyed by Vala.
I don't think I've seen that before, where you just give up, that you fight and you fight. They're just like, look, we didn't get the Arthas, but I tell you what, we're going out until we get somebody, and they got nobody in the end. It's just, fighting Doja's comp wasn't bad. It's just a few weird decisions. I mean, I understand why you give up 10 versus 8, 10 versus 9, you're trying to soak, but they didn't try and soak during those phases. And the same thing happened, 13 to 11. Same thing happened, 16 to 14. And they just keep finding themselves down in experience, and they weren't finding opportunities to get back in. And it's a very simple answer. You have to hawk in a lane, you're 4-man stacking in another lane, and you're giving up soak in another lane. There's where you're missing it. It's a very simple equation that if you do that, you find your way back into the game. You don't necessarily have to fast clear. You just have to safe clear. You avoid the hooks, you safe clear, you get back in the game, you find an even talent tier, and then you fight on the shrines. Yeah. And that's where their win condition is. Their hard engage is just negated the entire time by Resurgence. So a little bit surprising they took that approach, but you know, they wanted to fight. They got to fight on their hands. It's just Resurgence. They know how to throw punches a little better.
So still very exciting game number 1. Of course, you saw a little micro play here and there. Saw a lot of good macro calls in this Infinite Shrines game. And this is what happens when you have two very stubborn teams playing against each other. One team just wants to fight, the other just says, no, we're doing it 3 versus 5. This is my fort. We're standing our ground here. Whatever you want to do, I'm not calling Vala Stitches back. They're just going forward.
The thing is that Zappy likes to fight too.
Oh,
I mean, the aggressive positioning over and over again by Zappy on Vala, that was super impressive to watch. When you can watch somebody, you know, I talked about Meltus, who ended up, as you said, being on the Rhaegar, so they swapped a little bit, but Zappy in more than capable of carrying that team there on Vala, so very nicely done there.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the next match right here, or rather game in this series between Fighting Doges and Resurgence. We are going to Cursed Hollow. This map has been picked by Resurgence. They have just displayed dominating macro call in the last series, but also they lost on Cursed Hollow against Playstorm just yesterday in under 10 minutes. So
accidents happen.
Which is it? Is it going to be another 10 minutes game going to Fighting Doges, or are we going to see excellent macro call once again?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, we've kind of seen the return of Illidan a lot around the world, essentially, but we've seen it more so here during our first day. We saw a lot of Illidan play. We've seen the Abathur play, and that's something that could come in here. You know, the fact that we're seeing Brightwing is more prominent now with the changes, that update to her Pixie Dust, things like that. We're seeing the return of another global, which can really help. You know, we saw Dahaka on the other end, but we saw Brightwing, so you're not necessarily giving up as much. So, you know, we've kind of seen this shift in the meta just in the very near future. And again, we are on the live patch. So the changes to Anub'arak, you know, we've seen Anub'arak get punished a lot. You know, he's one of those heroes. He was so good that he was just dominant, and he's been slowly nerfed. Nerubian armor, his health, the range now on the cocoon. Small things are now accumulating. His health now is not that high. It's pretty low, actually. And so now all of a sudden you're in this realm of it's okay to let a Anub'arak through because you can find ways to work around it. And I think things like that are really coming to focus here in day number 2.
I think the main problem with the balance patch that just hit Anub'arak recently is the fact that although they have reduce his HP, they also shorten the duration of Locust Swarm to just 6 seconds. And that is high intensity damage and sustain for a hero, but it's only 6 seconds. And it may not be enough. You just heard the sound of Cursed Hollow. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into the second draft here between Resurgence and Fighting Doges. So I'm excited, man. The first ban should be going towards Fighting Doges. There we go.
First ban, first pick. The Ariel, I imagine, will not be through.
Yeah.
Genji Ariel seems likely. If it's something like an Uther or Dahaka, I'd be okay with that. But you know, the way the meta's gone here the last few days, it's been very different. Genji, I think, will definitely be one of the first bans. If not, you got to deal with quite a bit. But there's certain teams that are kind of like at the upper echelon that can start running heroes like if you get Tassadar, you can run like a Task Tracer, you can run an Abathur, things like that that can really like shake up what you want to do. So Resurgence is one of those teams, and the Respect Fighting Doges recognizes that, banning out Abathur against them.
And this leaves a very big question for Resurgence, but I think they're still gonna stick with the Ariel ban regardless, because the other alternative here would be the Uther, or maybe even considering the Genji, of which both are not as warranted as the Ariel ban. Yep, so Ariel gonna get picked out here for Resurgence, Fighting Doges with the first pick. I'm assuming they want to snatch some of the stuff that Resurgence ran in the last game away, so it would be either the Stitches or maybe considering the fact that they also want to pick up the Vala. One of the two.
I feel like this needs the... Okay, they're going Stitches. So now you give up the potential Uther Genji, Uther Greymane.
Yeah, which I think they're going to go for.
Snap
Immediate
lock
Genji.
You know somebody's on those comms like, guys, Genji's gotten through. They're discussing the draft. The guy's like, nope, let me click real quick. Just insta locking in that Genji. And they're ignoring the Uther and going Genji Greymane.
Which is fine. We've seen double support on this team. We've seen Rhaegar Brightwing. I think they're pretty confident running those kind of lineup here. But Stitches going towards the sides of Fighting Doges. We've actually seen some really good hooks from Kuga yesterday. So I'd like to point out that I'm looking forward to him playing Stitches again in this game, and how it's going to work out against Resurgence. That we have the Vala Uther. This is a good lineup for Fighting Doges right here.
The fact that Tassadar isn't, I guess, high priority on this region, you know, I understand against Genji Greymane it's going to be difficult, but not getting some of the synergy there, it just seems like we've seen the occasional ban, but we haven't seen that. Prioritizing other heroes, relying solely on that Vala. And the way that we've seen the drafts go, you got to imagine that Fighting Doges will likely be going in to a potential second support. I don't know if that's something they're as comfortable running with. We saw Resurgence, but now the fact that we see Genji Greymane, you got to imagine that Zappy and Melta's going to be back there. So maybe we won't see that double support, but could be likely.
Could be. The argument here is that Fighting Doges ran solo support Uther last game, so I'm inclined to think that they may not have a secondary support player in their lineup, which means that solo Uther, I'm fine with that, but that could also be the main reason why Resurgence is not really concerned banning out the Tassadar against Fighting Doges, but Malthael here looks like a pretty good ban. Decent ban, at least. Yeah, they don't want to deal with Malthael, although there's a couple of options to stop his Soul Reap from going in after Tormented Soul. Pretty good Silence could come in. The Haka's pretty good option, but they are not considering those. They're just going to ban it out. Fighting Doges on the flip side, though, with one ban. And I'm thinking it could be an Arthur's ban.
Arthur's ban would make a lot of sense. You know, Malthael obviously doing that percentage-based damage, does well in really close-knit team fights.
Yeah.
It seems like an appropriate ban. Again, I'm not as sold on the Anubarak right now. And we're on Cursed Hollow, so I really like that. But we also could be looking at a potential Tyrael. And going up against the Vala, you know, Tyrael is... His health pool got nerfed a little bit, but he has the physical armor, or the spell armor built in. So Vala obviously going into the auto attack. I still really like Tyrael. You've got the Holy Ground. You can create opportunities. You can dive onto a Stitches if he gets that hook in, things like that. You give that added protection. Plus you have dive buddies with Genji Greymane. Seems like a good pick if Resurgence is comfortable running it.
Oh, I'm sure they are. But the question here is, does Fighting Doges want to give them the Tyrael? No, they decide to ban the Haka instead. The Haka, global hero, of course, very good on Cursed Hollow. The key question there is, would they actually want to run that? Pretty sure the Resurgence may want to consider Brightwing again. And possibly just one tank for this game here, which possibly is going to be the Tyrael. Or they can just step on the gas pedal there and go full dive comp.
I've even got drafts in this book from when I was here a few months ago, trying to see if there's anything like along those lines that they used to run. That's when Muradin was actually still considered a hero.
Oh, yeah. Muradin. What happened to him?
Tassadar.
I wonder.
Okay, so Genji Greymane is not here, but they have run Tassadar in the past. Tassadar can help supplement the damage. It gives you added protection against a lot of these heroes, and it denies that. It's just a really good thing. It contests the tributes. It gives decent wave clear, and again, supplemental there. I don't know if they're as comfortable going in this. You know, they've run a triple backline before.
Okay, it's going to be the Brightwing Arthas again. They found success on Arthas last game. They're going to have the same hero for this one. Brightwing, that's a little bit iffy. I think this draft is keeping the last pick really open in a sense that they have a lot of flexible players in Resurgence. They don't really have roles for each other, which is why if you are expecting Meltis on the Brightwing, then you may possibly be looking at another tank coming in here, and Yu Yang will stay on his Arthas. Or alternatively, you may even have Capricorn on the Brightwing. Meltis play another support like Rhaegar again, and you can have Yu Yang on a Greymane. I think that would be the other alternative for them. So it's pretty open for them. But for fighting Doges on this side, though, what do you think?
For them, I think that they definitely need to find some way to contend with the Genji Greymane dive. You know, I saw a Gul'dan earlier, and that's something that I would not want to see. I mean, if you...
I would not want to see.
It's just on the back line. You need something to deal with that Arthas. Arthas with that physical armor, you need some type of mage damage. Li Ming or the potential fall set, I guess, if you end up getting that boomerang. Even if we end up seeing... Because the hammering build against the solo front line isn't that strong. I do like the Tassadar pickup, but you're relying a lot on auto attack damage between Falstad and Tassadar into an Arthas with the built-in physical armor, which is a little bit surprising to me.
Well, the question here is that Vala... I think Vala should be able to take care of Arthas pretty well.
Can
She
they
could
go
go for the
Illidan?
Q build. Illidan. Huh.
Illidan
Solo
diving a Vala
Brightwing.
Falstad Tassadar
Oh, that's
is
just
not
all
that.
in. That's just all in right there. You might as well go Syndra Ghost at a point. You might as well, right? I mean, Brightwing, Emerald Wind, you just go in there. Yeah, I think it's
Divide and
possible.
conquer.
Yeah, divide and conquer.
You know, if they end up going Tyrael here, I'd be more than okay with that. It gives you that boss control if you need it. It gives you a lot of really good team fighting. It gives you a lot of delay around that. It just overall fits well. If not, you know, maybe they were considering Tassadar, thinking that it might get through, go with that double support. You know, Brightwing as a solo healer is rough. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a second healer to help Brightwing.
And it is going to be, I think, a Rhaegar.
Yeah.
All right, sticking with
makes
double
sense.
support. So we're still going to be expecting Brightwing to be played by Capricorn, and Rhaegar will be played by Meltis. Something like that we've seen in the last game. I think it would stay the same. Pizza, however, should be playing as the main tank, so it's a different Arthas this game. Whereas for the other side, we're looking at Kuga, very scary Stitches, and, you know, Cursed Hollow has got a lot of nukes and crannies, so great hooking position in wherever you are. Just generally good position.
It's going to be about follow-up, and again, going double auto attack. You're looking at Arthas on the front line and a potential Rhaegar. If you're going into hammering build, your targets are going to be slim. And so if you're going to go that, obviously Boomerang's going to help out. But if you're going Seasoned Marksman plus an auto attack Vala, this is actually one of the rare moments that if you're playing Stitches Hook, I actually wouldn't mind seeing a Q build Vala in this. It gives you that single target damage. It gives you a good follow-up on the hook if you can get that. And it gives you that burst potential that you're not going to have from Falstad until level 7. And then it also gives you that. But the other thing you can keep an eye on, something to think about here. Stitches, Hook, Gorge, Mighty Gust the rest of the team away. You have that blow-up damage. And that's the thing, is that that's where you can get value out of Vala. The only tricky thing is that now you've lost your disengage. If you don't get that blow-up kill, and let's say it's on something like an Arthas, and you end up going into that Q build repeater at level 7, your burst damage, your sustained damage is gone. Now you're looking at a Vala and Falstad that are very vulnerable.
Very low HP and also skill shots on cooldown. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, going into game number 2 between Resurgence and Fighting Doges on the blue team, it's going to be Resurgence. Yu Yang will be the Arthas. Capricorn onto the Grim instead. Meltis onto the Rhaegar. Zappy as the Genji. Last but not least, we still have Pizza Xiao as the Brightwing. This is a truly flexible team.
It's very flexible, and that's something that I was going to highlight in the draft, but it is shown right here as we're going to see Trung on Vala, Kuga on Stitches, Sorrow on Uther, Richie on Tassadar, Tom Harvard will be rounding it out on Falstad.
Wow, so these guys can play anything, huh?
I mean, I was looking at their drafts and looking at the diversity of their drafts, you know, and they just kind of have a little bit of everything.
Okay, instant tower pick off here. While they have got Brightwing in the bottom lane, they are not stopped, so they're going for more. The difference here is that I think they're slightly faster. We have to check the speed on the bottom lane though, and Genji's already going to the mid lane right now, so soak-wise I think Resurgence should still be fine, and this is a lot slower.
Yeah, Vala should obviously do really well there. Vala did end up going into the auto attack build, but you talk about Greymane, that we saw in that top lane, hops into Worgen form, has that inner beast. There's just no stopping him. You are right, with that on their side, they're just ripping through these forts, and they're going to be an early trade.
All right, so Resurgence still pushing the top lane a little bit. Genji now soaking the mid, and yeah, pretty even.
Feasting on that. But they ended up getting a little bit more because they got the tower out of it. Gives them a little bit of an edge in terms of experience on the side of Resurgence. So once you're done with that, the question is, where do you find your next advantage? And when you trade them, very few teams know what to do after that, because generally it's just like, well, now we got to rotate all the way to the top, or we just meet in the middle and then just kind of hit the reset button.
All right, the fight going on. Yu Yang going in with the slow on to Vala. The hook not connecting, coming up from Kuga. Bottom lane, you get soaked from Brightwing. Top lane, you get soaked from Genji. And Fighting Dojers is sticking as force.
It always surprises me when I see Brightwing going into the hyper shift, because it doesn't work on her. So getting that cooldown on the phase shift,
Zeppy picking up some fried chicken wings right there.
Looking flashy here early.
Man.
But I don't know where Brightwing's value on her Z comes in on that one, level 1, when you generally have Brightwing as your split.
Yeah, you're right. I think the value is still exists, but minimal. In this case, we still see a very quick pickup on both Siege Giants, and one level lead for Resurgence so far in. Seems like the game pace has slowed down a lot right now.
Yeah, and that's teams don't know what to do, and you just generally trade because one team's doing it, so you have to do it because you don't want to lose out on that experience. So you just you give in. You say, all right, you do it, we'll do it, and the team that forces it is like, well, we got it, they got theirs. Neither team really knows what to do after.
Okay, so taking the game slower a little bit now. First tribute is going to spawn in the middle top lane. That is good news for Resurgence because they got a camp pushing down there. For both globals, they are also at the right side of the map, both at the bottom area, so that's pretty good luck on both teams.
Well, first tribute will be spawning here, getting zoned out already. Kuga is going to try and look for the hook, look for the block target. As you can see, Capricorn's positioning.
Oh.
He moved at the last minute. He would have been safe, and now Meltus in all kinds of trouble. Brightwing's going to shift in, so now our double supports here. They get the polymorph on there, and look on the backside. Zappy going in, getting the kill onto Tassadar.
Looking for the reset soon, and then we get a second one. Nope, Yu Yang still dropping barrel. The hook not connecting. Kuga now. And he plays a merry-go-round with the stitches. He gets blocked in there. You shall not pass, sir. Goodbye and good night.
Feels bad, man. That's a really awkward feeling because playing around Fog of War, it's like you're going to go this way. Nope. Nope. I'm just going to run. Oh. Jebaited.
All right, Tom Howard dropping a little HP. Shuriken, if it connect, I think could have been a kill if Zappy would have gone with the Swift Strike, but still very flashy play from Zappy. This is what I mean by playing a good Genji. You really want to be roaming around the map a lot, going for solo pickoffs. He did that with the Falstad first. He did that on the Tassadar in the middle of the team fight. Got no reset for the third one, but that's fine. And already Resurgence going on to the camp again.
The thing I like out of Fighting Doges is that they recognize, you know, where their camps are going to be. As Zappy's going to come over here and sniff this out. There's no way they back off this. There's no way.
No. Yeah, it's going to be fine.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a free one.
But Fighting Doges does recognize when to get camps. I mean, that's when we talk about macro control in a game like this, it's small things like that, but understanding your opponent's likely doing the same. You don't want to give up an advantage, so you just kind of neutralize that, as we will have our second tribute spawning here.
Take a look here. Yu Yang a little bit out of position. Still level 7, so no heroics on the side for Resurgence. And Richie, a very early summon. You see Howling Blast not really connecting. On the flip side, Zappy coming in with the flank on the top side. Pizza still landing some right clicks onto Kuga. This is where I think that the Tassadar support is failing a little bit because it's only a single target shield compared to two healers there. And the Howling Blast from Yu Yang connects onto two. Trungna drops a little bit of HP. Should be find a hook back on two of this. But Yu Yang does not decide to pass. So Zappy out of nowhere. You see the Howling Blast on the Cougar again. Zappy looking for a reset. Wants Tom Howard for the next one. But that's a Ford standing there, and that is a little bit too greedy, don't you think?
I was gonna say it looked like he wanted. He's like, guys, I want to do this. You're this close to just pressing that button, and he's like, all right, next time, I'm gonna get fancy.
I think he learned some restraint there.
Yeah, you could tell he wanted it. I tell you what else they want. They want this boss try and make a power play with 2 tributes to 1, play that 10 advantage. Going to be at the top left, though. They can get this quick, and if they get the tribute, they get the curse and the boss pushing. Could be pretty max value here.
Yeah, they should send Zappy away now. They've got a false set to fly in, I think. So probably Fighting Doges want to consider stopping that because you know that the rest of the blue team's at the bottom area, but nope, Book not going to go in. False set not going to go in as well. That's because they're 1 level down, and it looks like a free curse, free boss bottom lane now. Resurgence just needs to distract the team.
Well, this is one way to stretch your lead. The boss should be cleaned up pretty easily, but that opens the door for Resurgence to just take control on the rest of the battleground. Take a look at the top. We got Genji up there on Falstad again. Can play a bit more aggressive because there is the curse here.
All right.
Not able to get much there, but they do get Kuga in the middle in the process.
Okay, so Resurgence is now thinking boss bottom lane, doing whatever he wants. Okay, guys, there's still a wall here. But 30 seconds on the curse, they should be fine. And on the flip side, you've got in the mid lane a bit of a push coming in here from Resurgence. I think they're doing a pretty good job. Boss still alive somehow. Let's check the HP on the boss in the bottom lane, please. Up against a Vala there. Looks like the whole team's going down. There's a Vala. Trungnia by himself. Boss still somewhat healthy. Curse bullet misses. But Capricorn goes in, picks up the kill against Vala.
I feel like Zappy's like, look, you're not getting that kill without me. I'm trying to pad some stats here. I'm trying to look good. The boss, as you said, still alive. There's only a few seconds left on the curse. Keep wall should go down because there is no level 10. But the Howling Blast, again, continuing to get these roots. And Zappy going in again.
It's fine, it's fine. Don't you wish there's like Sindragosa right now?
I wish I was Zappy. I can play a lot of heroes. Genji is not a hero I particularly like, but I tell you what, I'm gonna hire him, get some lessons.
Well, that's a good thought.
Look at him. He's just waiting.
Yeah,
He's waiting. He went the extra dismount range. That's why you see him continue mounting. He went the extra dismount range, agile dismount, just looking for it, looking for opportunities.
That's quite a jumper. All right, so Resurgence taking it slow a little bit. They see an opportunity right here to go for the boss, which is what they're doing exactly. And on the flip side, Fighting Doges, they have a Falstad with Mighty Gus online. Maybe this is the fight they can take.
They don't recognize it. Tacitar's bottom. There's no way they can contest this. Zappy is just scaring off the Falstad. Brightwing is going to shift in. They're too late. Without a Tacitar here, there's no way they can contest this.
Okay. Zappy. Already with the cyber agility jump in position. A Rude behind, and Zappy says hi. All of a sudden, Chungnia does go down. The Gus comes out a little bit too slow. Zappy still with the Dragon Blade up, and you see the Ancestral coming in, looking for the second Swift Strike. It's going to be up online real soon. Yu Yang again, more slow. Pizza goes in with some extra heal, and Zappy all of a sudden in the backyard takes out that Vala and Falstad, and counting the kills with Tassadar now. Kuga just so slow against Yu Yang.
There's no way Yu Yang makes it out of here.
You will be surprised.
Oh my. Feels alive, man.
Pretty sure Pizza gonna die for that.
I died for this? I died to save you?
He owes him a meal.
Oh, he's gonna take him out to dinner. Capricorn, a little greedy there. He's gonna go down.
Plastic over extension on that part, but he did take out the top keep. Boss here is probably not going to do much of damage against the core.
I'll say this, is that we have a 2-level lead in favor of Resurgence. We have a keep down, we have all sorts of boss control that's happened. But we saw that fight break out on the top. Mighty Gus was used early, and then the Gorge. But we still have the opportunity for the Hook Gorge into a Gus to isolate a hero.
Oh, yeah.
So that's still a possibility. You can start getting picks that way, and it's just a matter of getting one pick. The problem is that the picks you're going to be getting need to either be on Brightwing or they need to be on Rhaegar. And the problem with Brightwing, if you don't get the appropriate lockdown, she has Blink Heal. Rhaegar is going to be your best target. Greymane follow-up. Genji has too much mobility, too much armor, too much survivability on the side of Arthas. So they just need to find that perfect hook to get that one pick.
All right, they want to fight right here. Curse Bullet already being used. Mighty Gus on the backside there to push the rest of Resurgence away. Army of the Dead also up and online. Can Yu Yang catch a dismount of Trungnia? Zappy looks for the stick strike, and it catches the Vala. And you see the rest of the team coming in, but Divine Shield's already being used. And then we have the Hook Gorge, but the Gus already used earlier on. Kuga looks to be dropping here, and this is a bit of a problem. Dragon Blade going in, etc. connects onto Zappy. Zappy still wants that Stitches, gets it. Trungnia still alive somehow, will be able to pull back out. He got the Divine Shield from earlier. But Capri goes in looking for the kill. Zappy again, diving a little bit too deep. Trungnia, you shouldn't be here. He was given 9 lives, and 9 lives is still not enough.
I mean, he could have walked away, but now we're going to see the keep engaged upon. They're going to go in, try and take this down. The minions are still alive, which means they can go in. Zappy, the root, follow up.
Perfect. You gotta be kidding me, JL. That kind of follow up, that kind of range, the communication. Immediately you see the Howling Blast coming out, and Zappy's already there.
Zappy.
Let's just take a moment to appreciate this kind of Genji. It only happens in Overwatch, not so much in HOTS. So I'm just glad we're seeing this kind of play.
You can hear the little hum of his. I don't even remember what that vehicle's called. A motorbike.
Yeah. Alright, Curse is very far away, but Tributes are already on the top side of the map. 16-13, Fighting Doges still alive in this game, but they need to do something. They need some magic to happen here, and this could just be it. Going for the boss fight. One talent here down. Not the soundest of ideas, but they're not the most healthy as well. And Tom Over too far in. Okay, so you want to fight now.
Again, it's just a matter of getting the pick. They need to focus on getting that one pick instead of trying to fight. Their team fight is not there. Zappy is on the back line again. The hammer comes down, but all of a sudden Kuga is isolated from his team. The cleanse, there's the Gorge, but there's the Gust. It's going to be a little late, and right against the wall, so they have no follow-up, and Zappy has received the Ancestral. He's going back in.
Dragon Blade in play. He gets two. Very well. Third one, the resets are crazy. Richie there. And the last one, he saved it, but he's not using it yet. All right, there we go. Enough. It's enough. This is just. Actually, this is where we both say it's a 5-man team.
Because they are destroying them. 19 kills to 2. We're looking at short death timers, but 4-level lead. They're sieging up on this, and Resurgence. Babel has absolutely dominated this series.
They look a lot better today than they do yesterday. And I guess putting Meltis on Lil Rhaegar.
That seems to be the answer. Just
seems to be.
I mean, it all started. Remember when the first game, Greymane and Rhaegar went head-to-head, and Meltis is like, nope, nope.
Who can bite harder? No go for the throat, I think, on a Greymane. Nah.
I'll tell you who bites pretty hard. Stitches. Scourges you. But again, it was the thing is we're going to take a look at a replay on one of that last team fight, I believe. And it's kind of one of the things that it just kind of exemplifies what went wrong for Fighting Doges and what went right for Resurgence. And it all starts with you can see what's going to happen. And like I said, you can see what's going to happen. You're going to see the Gorge. It's going to be a little slow, but watch Tom Harbert. He moves up. He moves up thinking, all right, time to Gust. But the Gust, the positioning of everything, it just went wrong every time. And watch Zappy on the backside. One reset, and he's zip. Can we call him Zippy when he's on Genji?
I think he has already been called Zippy on other things like Zeratul, whatsoever. But, you know, I think it would have been a lot better if the Falstad did a barrel roll down.
Yeah.
And Gust upwards instead.
I
think that would have been a lot better.
The way that they wanted to approach that was to hook, gorge, Gust. And it was almost never in that order. It was always Gust, then gorge. And they didn't have the disengage. And that time it was desperation. It was just like we found ourselves in a bad position. They were just way too far forward. Stitches is up. He gets the gorge, calls for it. Team's out of position, not ready. Falstad can't get to the proper position. Uses the Gust. Then it's an angle that pushes them about 2 feet away. And then they just get re-engaged upon. And Zappy just went to town. Greymane went to town. There was just nothing they could do. You could see what they wanted to do. They just didn't know how to pull it off. And that was, and that's credit to Resurgence. I mean, when you have Zappy just flanking you permanently. Yes. They had nothing. I watched him. A lot of people, they use deflect, and they're thinking, all right, I got value out of this. But the timing on his was impeccable. He knew when to go in, when to flank, He knew proper use of all of his abilities, and he's a good reason. But again, there's so many things that we saw in Game 1 and Game 2 from Resurgence. There's no way I can say one person. I've called Zappy a lot between Vala and Genji, but the coordination of their team today versus what we saw yesterday, it's night and day difference. They're looking really strong in Day 2.
Exactly, looking really good for the next series. I think they're gonna be playing off against the winner of Playstomp and Mikkelsen. That said, this is the match between Resurgence and Fighting Doges. Resurgence going to continue on. Fighting Doges, unfortunately, out of the competition already, 2-0. And all the best to this Vietnamese team moving forward. We hope to see them again. They are still very strong. Obviously, the coordination needs to be a little bit better in the sense of the hook gorge gust. HGG, we used to call them for short. All right. But still, you can see the level of individual play there is strong. It's just that the coordination, not so much. Players, more often than not, some of them, they know what to do, but the timing, as a team, requires a little extra work.
It takes practice and it takes patience. And I think if they take a little bit of time for both, then we'll definitely see a lot. But we're going to head to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to bring you more HGC SEA action as we get ready for the Eastern Clash qualifier. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.